welcome to my YouTube page. As you know, this is the page dedicated to giving you insight into some of the key developments within the NHS, and most importantly, helping you as an international student to make your decision, particularly as you're coming to the end of your academic program. Helping you to make the necessary plan in terms of your job pursuit, and those of you interested in pursuing career within the NHS as your pathway to sponsorship. What are the things you need to be fully aware of? And this video is very crucial because there is a major development that has been happening in the NHS. I'm sure a lot of you've seen some of the government announcement that has been taking place over the last few months. And today, what I'm going to be talking to you about is the end of the NHS as you know it. Why is this very important, and why should you actually be fully aware of this information I'm about to give you today? Well, first and foremost, many of you will be fully aware that there's been some major announcement around, the scrapping of NHS England and some other agencies attached to NHS, and that has a direct impact on the way things are being done in the NHS, particularly. A lot of the workforce from these organizations are moving into the hospital setting, which will put a lot of pressure in terms of job search, and the competition becomes more intense. That is one part of the story. The other part of the story, which a lot of you might not be fully aware of, is there is now some backroom privatization going on in the NHS, and this is likely to have a major, major impact on you as an international student, particularly in your pursuit of sponsorship. And how is this going to affect you? First and foremost, the fact that there is a possibility now that a lot of NHS services are moving into something called a managed service. And the managed service as a work is as such that it allows the hospital to take away the pressure of things around. You look at some of the benefits you gain within the NHS in terms of your sickness pay. A lot of you will be fully aware. If you already work in the NHS, you'll be fully aware of the benefit in terms of the sickness entitlement you get, which is rather different from a lot of opportunities people have in the private sector. Things like your maternity pay as well. There's discussions around that area, particularly in terms of moving on to a managed service. Also, there's also other internal benefit to the hospital to go down the path of a managed service. But from an employee point of view, your sickness management, pension services, all those things are some of the major impact. But what is more fundamental here for you as an international student is the fact that the current structure which is in place for NHSP, which is the agenda for change, does not apply to all these managed services. A lot of them do not have the obligation to keep the agenda for change. And in effect, what that does is, you have a salary range which these private companies will pay. And as such, that have impact on you in terms of your target now for roles that, have sponsorship requirement. As a lot of you know, with the new legislation that has come in now, that has moved the threshold from 30,000 to 30,960 to 33,400 for the new entrant pathway, and from 38,700 to 41,700 thereabout for the skilled worker. What happened now is you can target band 5 somewhere in the high cost living area in London. Your band 6 will allow you to qualify for the new entrant pathway irrespective of the area, and the band 7 as well, we guarantee you the opportunity for the skilled worker visa at 41,000 plus. But with this system coming into the NHS now of a managed service in which a lot of these companies are not really necessarily bounded by any regulations or desire to keep the current agenda for change structure that is used by the NHS. That meant is that what that in effect meant is, they can then restructure the salary threshold and standard they want to pay, and that could have impact on you, particularly with the ability to say you're targeting your band 6 or band 5 job in order to be able to achieve the desired salary you need for your sponsorship. And if you look at that in effect, you have to be very careful when you're putting forward your application now, making sure that you look at the job in which you're applying to. Some hospitals are already putting it out there that your job might be at risk of a 2P, something called TUP. For example, if you don't know what it is all about, you can go online and read it. TUPE. This is where they transfer you from your current employer, i.e., you're working with the NHS, they transfer you from that NHS hospital to the private sector company contract. So you need to be fully aware of that as well. So making sure that you're fully prepared. And before you put forward your application, even though you will be working in the hospital, that doesn't mean you're employed by that hospital. You might be employed by that private company. And example of such will be like companies such as Serco, for example, that manage a lot of work for a lot of hospitals like security, catering, facilities, and you see a lot of other facility management as well that are already active in the NHS. You see various other services in NHS now. If you look at Serona, for example, they are a typical example of a company that works with hospital, but they actually manage a lot of services on their behalf, either that of mental health or any other clinical activity. So you need to be fully aware of these when you're making your decision and when you're putting forward your application. So you need to be quite very thorough and also analyze the job carefully. This doesn't mean you should stop applying for jobs in the NHS or if you see those kind of roles, but just be fully prepared that these kind of roles might not come immediate with immediate sponsorship, even though you might have thought, looking at the job, the salary standard will meet the criteria for you to put forward the request for sponsorship. But simply because they are private sector, you need to check if they have the license to sponsor, which a lot of hospitals hold anyway. But in this case, because they are private company, they might not have the right license to sponsor you. So you need to be quite very thorough when you're putting forward your application. And some of these challenges doesn't even end there as well. It also goes down to the fact that with the new legislation now, a lot of you will need to re-strategize. And what does this mean for you in terms of re-strategizing? First and foremost, you need to acknowledge the fact that where you are right now in terms of opportunity for sponsorship, you are going to be very limited with what you can do. And how does these actually have major impact on you? First, you need to recognize that in the past the opportunity you have for sponsorship in terms of lower salary threshold, where a lot of the band threes, band fours, band five easily get you sponsored, that is no longer applicable. And if those of you that still have interest in care related roles, those roles now you have to be very much focused on London high cost area, where the band three start about 28,000 onwards for you to be able to secure sponsorship in that respect. But those of you that are going down the other route, or the administrative job in NHS with the core focus of career progression, you definitely have to know now. Even if you secure a band four in some of these hospitals where there is high cost, where they range within the high cost living area, your guys in St Thomas's, King's College, Kingston, Epsom, St Heliers, Imperial, the band four right now will not meet the salary standard you need for the new entrant pathway anymore. So you even band five in there, which is quite very competitive. I don't even see it being realistic for you to be able to secure a job with them because of the competition and their exposure to the fact that the legislation is having direct impact on them being able to sponsor people. So they're quite very much focused on um, home employees, people that have British passport or already indefinite leave to remain or residence permits in other form, either dependent. So that makes it they're more focused in that particular area rather than looking at opportunity for international students. So you need to start exploring other opportunities. And how do you do this? Is by having a clear mapping standard in place. By making sure that if you secure your band four, irrespective of wherever that band four comes from, then you go on to your band five, and then hopefully you can get opportunity to secure a band six down the line, or you can go from your band four to band six. And I know it's quite easier said than done, but I know this comes with a lot of cost, a lot of challenges, the relocation, the pressure, and everything that comes with it. But unfortunately, given the current climate of where we are in terms of the changes that is currently in place, and right now, as you will know, there's been a major reshuffle in the government cabinet today, as of today, the 5th of September. There's been a major government reshuffle on the 5th of September. Um, in 2025. So that reshuffle has had, is meant that there's now a new Home Secretary. What that Home Secretary is going to do is different. There's a lot of questions around what the new Home Secretary might plan to do. But whatever they plan to do, there's already speculation that you know, they've not, we've not seen the end of changes being made to the student route and some of the requirements for sponsorship for international students. So you need to be well prepared, you need to be adequately resourced, and you need to also embrace the challenges coming your way. So, the best thing I can say to you is, this process now is going to require a lot of resilience, dedication, and the commitment to it, whichever way you want to take it. And I know it's very difficult, but all I can say is, you've taken on the challenge of leaving Nigeria to come here or whatever country you've left from, and now is not the time to give up. You need to carry on pushing, and I'm sure a lot of you would have seen testimonials, you would have watched previous videos on this page where you've heard from people that have shared very beautiful stories, or some of you that have had opportunity to liaise and communicate with me, you would have heard beautiful stories from people that have had opportunity to secure a job in the NHS and how they've gone on to get promotion as well. And those are the things you yourself you need to start working towards and start preparing yourself as part of your goal in terms of achieving that desired outcome. And as I would say to you, it's doable, but it does come with a lot of pressure and challenges. So thank you so much again for visiting my page. There's many materials in here that will get uploaded soon again, and there are already existing materials here that will help you towards your pathway towards securing NHS role. There are loads of people I know that have benefited from watching one or two videos in here that they've gone on to do their interview and secured a successful outcome out of it. So as part of your appreciation for the page, please do subscribe as well and leave comment on any subjects, particularly relating to NHS you have interest in. So again, thank you so much. I feel privileged every time I know someone out there is benefiting from materials I'm putting out. So again, good to see you. Take care.